Hello there, and welcome to this quarter-final review of the Rugby League World Cup. I'm your host, Super Saiyan Blue Lucario, so grab a cup of tea and join me as we dive into all the action from the first knockout round in the World Cup. First, we have Australia against Lebanon. This one started pretty back and forth, both sides trying to feel their way into the game, but after some quick play the ball, saw the Aussies get some good territory. Josh Adokar had enough to finish in the corner. Australia almost grabbed a second off the back of an offside penalty, but for a poor kick from Grant. Lebanon was searching desperately for a foothold, and they certainly gave a good fist of it, making good yards in the middle and containing Australia for the most part, restricting yardage and even driving Latrell Mitchell into touch near the line. A breakaway after an uncharacteristic soft tackle via Tedesco, and Australia did score again though. Adokar backing up in support to make it 10-0. Adokar completed his hat-trick after a ball steal by Munster on the try line, with Adokar to race away, diving in the corner. Pace was picking up, and Lebanon began to wilt under the pressure. Isaiah Yeo bursting through the middle before Mitchell powered over in the corner. Murray added another score, and as a game, the contest was done by this point. Murray burrowed low and scored again before half-time, but Lebanon did go close just before the break. A good offload sent them away. They were just unable to finish in the left corner, finishing really letting them down. But they did earn a repeat set while chancing their arm. Australia, though, diffused the situation entirely with an intercept, and it was 30-0 at the break. Game, set, and match already. As far as knockout games go, Australia were already there in the semi-finals at this point. You would consider it acceptable if they eased off the gas at this point, trying to save themselves for a much stronger semi-final. The Aussies started strong in the second half and nearly scored immediately, but for a knock-on from Crichton. But they did score off the back of an awful mistake at the back. A poor ball to Mansour, and Adokar picks up and scores out wide. Lebanon, though, they did keep trying. Moses made a break and winning a penalty for his efforts, but Robinson knocking on at the end of the next tackle, and it came to naught. It was a familiar story all day for Lebanon. Creating opportunities, but execution letting them down. A knock-on from Carrigan gave the setters another shot, and Josh Mansour gleefully accepted after a deft Moses kick wasn't dealt with at the back. Lebanon had a matter of pride at last. The Aussies did switch off a bit, and the game became a bit scrappy. They're making some sloppy errors, dropping the ball on numerous occasions while the Lebanese continued to battle away. But a try with 10 minutes to go extended the lead to 48-4. Again, stayed scrappy and remained the same score until the end of the game. Australia becoming the first side into the semi-finals. As good as they were the first half, they'll be very disappointed and frustrated with the second period. It was very scrappy, very disjointed, and they made far too many errors that a better job would punish them. Yes, job done by half-time, but in games where the scoreline's still in the balance, such a second-half performance would be punished. For Lebanon, the year is over. A guaranteed spot in the 2025 World Cup, though, by qualifying for the quarterfinals, and a dogged second-half display. They were by no means embarrassed out there. Man of the match was Josh Adokar. 5 tries, and he was the only player not to put a foot wrong for Australia all night. Next up, England against Papua New Guinea. Both sides started physically, trying to find a foothold, as expected, in a nervy start. A neat kick from Williams found Makinson, but he was unable to ground the ball in a very early threatening moment, which really set the tone for the game. The wet conditions made for a challenging atmosphere, and a knock-on trying to field a kick close to the PNG line gave England a great chance. Tom Burgess crashing over from close range. He was a real handful, making big yards with every carry, and was a nightmare all day for the Commonwealth. PNG were on the back foot, and after a set restart gave good territory, an inch-perfect kick from Sam Tompkins saw Makinson cross in the corner. A poor kick, but relentless chase and determined defence bundled Roderick Ty in touch, and the pace of the game was proving very difficult for PNG, as England kept turning the screw, forcing numerous repeat sets. A short chip kick from Williams was batted back to Bateman, and good hands out wide sent Dom Young in at the corner, as England continued to score and kept the foot on the gas. Big yards on the restart before Makinson leapt highest for a kick out wide to force his way over. England carved over PNG again, Bateman bursting through a hole, and superb support from Callum Watkins before Williams also backing up, who slid over the line. And again, same story, same moments, just minutes later. England ripping apart this Cromwell defence with Herbie Farnworth before a long ball from Victor Radley to Dom Young, who got an offload for Watkins to dive over in the corner. Alex Johnston failed to deal with a high kick, and after a captain's challenge, got the ball back for England. Another try for Makinson. PNG finally got the ball after half an hour, with only their third set of 6 all game. Such was England's dominance. But a loose pass, and the set came to nothing. England lost the ball after a tough shot in defence, and the Commonwealth were finally able to build some pressure, though, before half-time. They nearly scored out wide before earning a repeat set from the kick, but England were able to deal with it comfortably in defence. Their speed of line really putting the Commonwealth under pressure, and it was 38-0 at half-time. Probably one of the best England performances in many years, much like the game against Samoa was. Just absolute unreal performance. The second half had a steady start. PNG came out determined for pride and really brought it to England, who were looking for a strong showing ahead of the semi-finals, but the Commonwealth did look much better. Lamb and Apape finally getting some ball and were creating, but England's defence was solid and secure. The second half became scrappy and scrappier, neither side really finding their rhythm, which was helped by some very tough defence from both sides before a poor penalty while in possession given away by PNG for attacking the marker. England shipping the ball out wide, across the line, McMeekin throwing off defenders before sending Makinson for his 4th try. A repeat set, forced off a kick-off coming off an England player before a kick on the first tackle behind the defence, though. PNG finally on the board. Nutlick was able to cross to salvage some pride. A very similar score to Makinson's first of the day. Speaking of Makinson, he then added his 5th try to become the first England player to do so into an international after a great cutout ball from Williams out wide. Man of the match this one, Tommy Makinson. 5 tries, always a running threat, and caused mayhem off the back of a superb display from the pack, especially Tom Burgess. England will take a lot of confidence going into the semi-finals. They played brilliantly in this, certainly in the first half. And a performance against Samoa was excellent as well. There are still room for improvement. The second half was definitely scrappy, and I'm sure Sean Wayne will not be too pleased with it. But we're in the semi-finals. When it comes to knockout rugby, it doesn't always matter how you win, as long as you win. And I'm sure things will be worked on during the week ahead of the semi-final, which promises to be a much tougher game. One I'm very, very excited for, as England may just start to believe they can go all the way. Next, to New Zealand versus Fiji. I expected New Zealand to really come out flying and earn revenge for their defeat in the 27 quarterfinal. I thought going into the tournament that they would destroy Fiji, but boy, oh boy, was I wrong. Fiji did win in the quarterfinals, 4-2 in torrential rain, and it was heavy rain again. Made you think maybe we could be on for a similar story. Both sides were testing each other early. Sivo finding space for Fiji on the left edge, while Brown nearly took a high kick to score for the Kiwis, just not quite able to finish. The New Zealanders, though, they were a bit too enthusiastic, giving away multiple offside penalties, which in the rain would be an absolute killer. Field position was going to be crucial and was expected to be a tight game. A neat kick from midfield from Hughes took an awkward deflection, and Hiku couldn't quite hold onto the ball as New Zealand began to find cracks early on in the Fijian line. And while they continued to up the pace, Fiji was struggling to get back. Quick play the balls, really putting them on the back foot as New Zealand tried to find their way through, but scrambling defence from the Bati managed to hold them at bay. Lightning hands out to the left edge, saw Sivo crash in the corner for a surprise Fijian lead, potentially against the run of play, but the Bati gained confidence and tried to take New Zealand on at the edges. They lost the ball They did lose the ball while trying it out wide before trying to keep it in play. But the Kiwis then gave a penalty away for obstruction. The back of this, a sublime ball from Taruva sent Nguama in, and all of a sudden it was 12-0 Fiji. The Kiwis got a penalty of their own and started to threaten the Fijian line, but again, Taruva dealt with the kick strongly. A mistake from a kick by Sivo, though, New Zealand pounced. Swift hands out wide from the scrum, and Mulatalo dived over to bring the Kiwis right back into the game. The pace was starting to get to the Fijians. Mulatalo made a massive break, but Manu dropping the ball under a tough tackle, and the play came to naught. Again, Fijian desperate defence, showing just what it would mean to them to get through this game. New Zealand continued to turn up the heat, forcing Taruva back 10 metres and losing the ball, but credit where it's due. Fiji, again, holding firm. The Kiwis kept hammering away. A crossfield kick was dealt with by no one. The ball was then kept alive, but again, Fiji, heroic defenders, holding them out 12-6 at the break. Fiji then hit the ground running in the second half, attacking the fringes again. And Nguama crossing the corner. Bati really began to believe here. New Zealand, though, they began to get desperate, pushing harder, and finally getting the breakthrough after a switch off in defence saw Nikora power over. It was an awful try to concede, though. I don't know who made the call, but it was clearly a call for the defenders to let go as a ball steal was going to be attempted. But they just fell off the tackle altogether and allowed the Kiwis back into the game. And after this, the New Zealanders got on top. The pace of the game continued to lift, and Fiji was struggling to contain them. Mulatalo went close in the corner, but for brilliant effort from Wakeman to hold him up. More desperate defense by Corbin Sims stopped a certain try as well. It was end-to-end stuff. Both sides trading opportunities before a great ball out wide from Brown to Mulatalo before finding Manu in support. And all of a sudden, the scores were level with 17 minutes to go. A controversial ball steal penalty then gave the Kiwis the lead at 2018 for the first time all game. An error close to the line gave Fiji another crack late on, but they couldn't quite break through. An accidental offside gave them yet another go. The drama was continuing to build. 4 minutes to go, both sides working desperately overtime. But an error from the base of the scrum, and all the wind was knocked out of Fiji. New Zealand then went up the other end of the field with Rapana powering over in the corner in the dying embers of the game to wrap up the win and send the Kiwis through to face Australia in the semi-finals. Man of the match for me was Taruva. He was brilliant for Fiji. He did not deserve to be on the losing side and has a fantastic future ahead of him. For only 20 years old, had probably one of the best games of a Fijian player in this tournament. New Zealand, though, they will have cause for concern. They'll need a monumental improvement on all of their performances so far if they are to challenge Australia in the semi-finals, which is on Friday, by the way. Massive game. It's always a titanic clash when those two meet. But New Zealand, they have, considering what I saw when they were coming into the tournament, they aren't delivering yet. They haven't delivered the performance that warrants it yet. And unless they pull something out of the bag, Australia are continuing to go from strength to strength. And from what looked like a maybe out of sorts side when it started, now really clicking. If both sides fire, we are in for one hell of a showdown. But we'll have to wait and see. Finally, the war that was Tonga versus Samoa. The cultural war dances going head to head, inches away from each other, set the tone for the game ahead. Big hits, both sides trying to feel out the other, but it was Samoa who struck first. A flat pass finding Sua on a good line to burst through and score. Samoa then gave away a penalty while in possession, and Tonga immediately hit back. A good cutout pass from Lola here found Tupu in at the corner. It was 6-4 Samoa. Big hits were flying in, Crichton in particular flying up to shut down the attack, but Tonga continued to push. Tupu was unable to take in a crossfield kick, and Samoa were let off the hook a little bit. An uncharacteristic error then followed from Tupu to give Samoa a chance close to the line, and wonderful footwork from Luai saw Samoa push back in front. Both sides were making huge yards up the middle, but Tongan errors continued to pile the pressure on their own line. When they did eventually tighten up, they were able to create their own opportunities, again looking dangerous from kicks. Miscommunication at the back saw Tongan fullback and winger collide, giving Samoa good ball on the Tongan line, but despite the pressure, were able to hold firm. A huge tackle denied Suoli on the line before a knock-on and contact gave Tonga a reprieve. Samoa came again, but Katoa, with desperate cover, managed to deny a certain try. Taumalolo tried to get Tonga back into it with surging runs, which earned a repeat set, and Lola here managed to gain another repeat set from a kick. Off the back of this, a kick from dummy half close to the line saw Takiaho, crash over to bring it to 12-10. The tempo up, and Tonga and Samoa both flying into the tackles. Taylor May with a huge hit to deny Tonga an opportunity out wide. Samoa, though, kept pushing forward, nearly scored on the stroke of half time. Tim Lafay's final pass adjudged to go forward, 12-10 at the break. Tonga started the second half strong, earning repeat sets on the Samoan line, off back of penalties and set restarts to pile the pressure on early after the break. A penalty for offside was taken at goal, and Tonga levelled the scores. This lasted all of 5 minutes as a ball steal penalty saw Samoa slot over 2 points from close range, back in front at 14-12. A big break from Suoli gave Samoa a huge chance, and they took it, as Brian Toto pounced on the bouncing ball from a kick to cross unopposed. 20 points to 12. They were really turning up the heat at this point, the Samoans, and piling the pressure on Tonga, who started to play desperately as time ticked away. Lola here had a kick charge down, and Samoa surged forward, but for a last-gasp block by Katoa to stop a certain try. Moses Suli capitalized off a quick play of the ball and burst through to find Katoa on his shoulder, and all of a sudden we had a 2-point ball game with just 5 minutes to go. Crichton made a fantastic tackle on Lola here to deny Tonga a great opportunity. Then off a nasty kick from Lafay, earned a repeat set as time whittled away. Tonga got a repeat set of 6 with just a minute to play after a terrible mistake from the Samoans, but they couldn't crack the resilient defense. Samoa held on to make their first ever World Cup semi-final. Man of the match, Anthony Milford. A superb performance, big defensive shift and running game from the halfback. The back of his combination with Luai was able to steer the Samoans home. So what does this mean for the semi-final? Well, we've already sort of talked about the first one, Australia against New Zealand. There are always titanic struggles between the two, but Australia do have the edge when it comes to World Cup head-to-heads. New Zealand did win in 2008 in the final against the Aussies, but other than that, don't really overcome them in World Cup formats. And off their performances so far, it's hard to see them turning out on top. I do have them predicted to win this, potentially in extra time, from the predictions before the tournament. But unless there is a huge shift in performance and uplift, and every one of the New Zealanders play to their absolute potential, I honestly don't see it anymore. It's a difficult one to see New Zealand coming out on top, but you can't really call these games. Australia, they're still clicking up the gears. They're still settling in with this new side. That might be their one undoing, and especially if they show another second half performance like they have done against Lebanon, they need to be switched on for the full 80, but with a place in the final at stake, I'm sure both sides will be. The second semi-final sees a rematch of day one, England versus Samoa, but don't expect a massive scoreline like last time. Samoa have been slowly clicking through the gears with good performances against Greece and France before their best performance probably of the tournament against Tonga. The only issue was Tonga didn't really offer too much in attack. They were reliant on their powerful pack, and the halves just weren't clicking. England are a different story. They are on form, their pack are on fire, and the back line is better than I've ever seen it for England. This is probably a phenomenal chance for England to make the final, potentially go all the way. People are starting to believe. People are starting to think it's possible. It'll take something huge if we get through to if England make it through to the final. But first, the job has to get past Samoa. Full of confidence, the backline is starting to click. The Penrith combination are starting to click as well. Do not expect a big score. It will be a tense, close game, this one. Absolutely closer than the first game, and one I'm very much looking forward to on Saturday afternoon. So let me know down below which quarterfinal impressed you the most, which team do you think impressed you most, and who do you think will make the final next week? Thank you all so much for watching. I've been your host, Super Saiyan Blue Lucario, and until next time, it's time for me to have a cup of tea.